let's start it with this then. I don't know if this is necessarily goofing around, but I want to talk about one of the best movies I have seen in the last 10 years. I watched it on Netflix this weekend. It's called I Care a Lot. Have you seen it?
What's it about?
It
sounds familiar.
Good. I don't want to tell you what it's about. You need to go watch it. You need to go watch it on Netflix. It's literally one of the best movies I've seen in the last 10 years. This lady, I don't even want to talk about it just because it's so good. But like, I was on the edge of my seat. Okay, now this is gonna be like a reach, so don't like get pissed off at me here. And like, I'm not comparing it to the Shawshank Redemption. I'm just comparing it to the style of the ending of Shawshank Redemption and to where like so many things happen in the last like 30 minutes of the movie, the last 20 minutes of the movie or whatever. It's like a roller coaster of just like holy shit, plot twist after plot twist. It's like, what the hell's going on? And then the ending happens, and you're just like, what? And it's crazy. It's a phenomenal movie. I loved it.
Rosamund Pike is a damn good actress.
That's she's the main actress. Actress.
Words are hard.
Words are hard, man. Words are hard. Words are hard. But yeah, no, you guys gotta watch that movie. It's really good. It's really good. And then another movie I gotta watch, but I'm not gonna make anybody else watch it. I just want to watch it so nobody else has to watch it. Is the third Sandlot. There's a Sandlot 3.
Yeah. I didn't even know there's a Sandlot 2, dude.
There's a Sandlot 3. And the Sandlot 1, obviously phenomenal. Sandlot 2 sucked. And then I don't know where I came across it, or like, I don't know what I was searching on YouTube or whatever, but I saw Sandlot 3. And I thought it was just like a trailer for like the movie that never happened. But the movie happened, and it's available on YouTube for $3.99. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna watch it so you guys don't have to, and I'll let you know how it goes. I'll spoil the shit out of that movie. I don't care. The movie I Care a Lot. That movie, that one I will not spoil for you, but I will spoil the Sandlot 3 because that just looks so bad, and I'm gonna hate that I have to watch it.
Oh, okay. So you're going okay. So you're going into it understanding that it's gonna be.
Oh, it's gonna suck. It can't be good. The number 2 was terrible. I mean. I don't know what the hell they were thinking about making a number 3.
Well, what were they thinking about making a number 2?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
I mean, because number 1 got so much hype that you're trying to just keep that momentum going, and so they could top of it. But
for number 2.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying for number 2. That's why they tried to go with it. But
wait, when did they make the second one?
Years ago. And then the third one came out. Sandlot 3, 2007. The third one, I believe.
You guys can't be wasting your time with this shit, dude.
No, I don't know. It's ridiculous. But back on track for the Seattle Mariners. This is the first. This is the last I'm gonna talk about the Kevin Mather situation. But I was scrolling across an article posted on like one of the Mariners Facebook pages, and this guy, he writes an article, Chris Phillips, calling him out. He writes an article glimpsing into the 2025 Seattle Mariners team, talking about the effects that Kevin Mather's had, and it's just predicting the future. It's like, dude, shut the hell up. Like, this isn't 2025, and you're like, what are you trying to write about? It's stupid. It makes no sense. I read the full article, and it's like he's like predicting what's going to happen in the future. It's like, who does?
Is it positive or is
no?
It's
it's not necessarily positive. It's. I mean, like, there's some positives, some negatives, but it's just like the fact that he's like saying, oh, and like now like his arbitration process comes, and Jared Koenig's like his relationship's been ruined already because of what happened with Kevin Mathers. It's like, why are you trying to predict a 2025 situation when we have other shit to talk about on this team, and he's just gonna go with the negative?
This article on Forbes,
no,
I think I was gonna say I'm looking at it right now. But yeah, I mean, look, this is by Christian Red. This is an entirely different article. But from what I'm hearing, it just sounds like this writer, what'd you say, Chris Phillips?
No, yes, Chris Phillips, yeah.
And we're not looking to get in in a media war with this guy.
No.
But yeah, I mean, clickbait is clickbait, and he has a job to do and he has money to make. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're a real Mariner fan and you want to focus on the here and now and what actually can be achieved, it's this year and it's this goddamn podcast.
100%. I love that, Max. I couldn't have said that any better myself. That was poetic justice right there.
So the other, moving on though, I wanted to ask, I mean, us three sat down and we discussed how we broke the internet with our first episode. Do we have an exact figure on the amount of listeners we had last week?
Evan?
We got about 100 listeners.
100,000?
Yeah. We broke Spotify record for the no
for the debut.
Well, no, what was tight though was the Podbeam website. It like shows who's been listening throughout the country, and so I saw like there's some people in Montana listening, Virginia.
That was me.
That was Max.
There we go. And
Virginia, that's Brian Blow.
Yeah, and Arizona. So Willie was listening. I remember you sent that to him, Chris, to get him on the podcast, and then we got a bunch of people in California. So obviously our main base is Washington, but I'd say California and Washington, keep it on the West Coast. That's where they're listening right now. But we're picking up momentum each week. I feel like, with our Instagram, we're always getting some followers, and so it's just good to see that support. Max, I know you sent out that message of your friend, saying he supports it and he really likes what we're doing. And so I think it's a good platform that we're having right now just to talk about the Mariners. We're around the curve in COVID, so I think it's just something that people can look forward to, and so I like where we're at right now.
Speaking of the turn of COVID, 9,000 fans,
9,000 fans,
opening day, baby.
That's a beautiful thing to see.
I'm gonna do everything I can to get my hands on some of those tickets. God, I want to smell that grass. I want to taste the dirt. I just want to be in that stadium so bad.
Absolutely. I don't know if I'll that's gonna be tough to get that opening day tickets, but I got a buddy, and I think I mentioned this on the first episode, but I got a buddy that's from Houston, and I think I'm gonna try and aim for going to when the Stros are in town. I think I'm looking at April 16th, but obviously socially distanced and safe, but put me back in a goddamn ballpark. Or just a public setting in general outside of a bar. And that's been really nice too. But, here we are, folks. Like, this is why we're doing the podcast. Look at the timing. Baseball's back. Vaccinations are here. Just hang on to your panties.
Don't get them all in a bunch.
Chris, I got a question for you. So Max mentioned about the Astros. So I remember last year you tried to schedule that garbage
night.
Yeah, are you gonna try to bring that back now that you got fans this year? Like,
you know what, Evan? I have not thought about this, but that's a great question because we as fans, we have to hold ourselves accountable to not letting the Astros get away with this without going unpunished in an environment with fans surrounding them. So we have got to, Evan, I love that. I'm going to bring back Oscar the Grouch night.
Here it comes. Yeah.
We're going to try and get as many people to the game as possible, dressed up as the man himself, Oscar the Grouch. We bring trash cans. We bring whatever we can. We bring cowbells, shit to make noise that emulates the noises that they were making when they were cheating, and we are not going to let them get away with this. This platform we have here with Monday Mojo, I think will better help that and pick up a bit more speed. Maybe we can get every single listener. You all hear this? We can get all of you guys to the stadium, and we can all be Oscars for one night.
What do we got on the agenda today, Chris? We're interviewing someone, aren't we?
We interviewed one of the all-time Mariner utility players, Mr. Willie Bloomquist, the man, the myth, the legend himself, and that couldn't have gone any better. I mean, same style of person as Dave said, just all around genuinely nice guy. We reached out to Willie on Twitter, and after the second attempt, he followed me back and then DM'd me and said he was in for the interview, and it was just super easy to get him on the show, and he was just super willing to talk with us and talk baseball, and it was really cool. And he actually also let me send him my jersey that he's going to sign and send back. And that's just awesome. So I'm going to be hanging that up in a frame and have that in the background on my wall with Willie Bloomquist's signature on it. I mean,
that's epic.
I mean, I say this in the interview, but I mean, we've been doing this podcast for about like a month, or the plans of it, whatnot. We've only had one episode. Here's number 2. And us being the Mariners, the lifelong Mariners fans that we are, for us to be able to have had this opportunity to talk with the guy that we hear on TV every single day or on the radio every single day, and then to talk with the guy that we were watching as we grew up and grew the love for the game. I mean, goddamn, like it's just, it couldn't be any cooler. And like, it's
So
just, it's star striking, you know?
there's a, I was speaking with my dad, and he says he has, he claims to have a photo of me and Willie, you know, when I'm fuck it, I don't know, like 12 years old or 10 years old or some
That's
just
awesome.
like little kid. And apparently I have his autograph, and apparently there's a photo of me. So I don't know. That said, I have some digging to do, or
You do.
yeah,
You do have
that,
some digging to do.
that could have gone hand in hand with this episode. But
Yes. Yes.
I just was like, hey dad, like I interviewed Willie Bloomquist, and he was like, oh, you know, I have a photo somewhere if you get an autograph with him. I was like, bullshit. And he was like, no, dude, I was like, bullshit. Go find it, please.
You've got to get your pops to find that card.
All right. Well, not card.
That
Yeah,
photo.
but
Yeah,
the photo. I don't know. We've gone to a lot of Mary games as kids, and my parents have forced me to go get pictures and autographs from many players over the years, but apparently Willie was one of them. And Willie, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry that you weren't that memorable or what have you, but we'll see if I can find it.
Yeah.
Before we get into the interview, let's do like a little, I don't know, I'm thinking like an introductory of who Willie Bloomquist is, some of his main stats, his main storylines. Evan, Chris, I don't know if you want to start that off.
I think Chris should, because he's got the Willie Bloomquist jersey, and he knows his
the Willie Bloomquist fanboy. We love it.
The Willie Bloomquist fanboy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know like all the stats off the top of my head. I'm not Rain Man over here.
No, yeah.
Speaking of, I did watch Rain Man also last night, but yeah, I'm not Rain Man over here.
Well, we know he was in the bigs for 14 seasons. He
9 seasons for the Mariners.
9 seasons for the Mariners. He had a couple different stints with the Mariners. He's born and raised, I think, Bremerton, Washington, so Pacific Northwest guy. We know that he grew up a Mariner fan just like us. However, one of the things you guys will hear in the interview is, you know, he grew up in the era where, you know, the 95 season was kind of around the time that the certainty of the Mariners franchise was hugely in jeopardy. So
it was almost certain that they were gone.
Exactly.
That's where it was. It was almost so certain that they were gone. And Willie was able to see the 95 series as a fan from what we all see, knowing Edgar's hit, saying like, oh, that's just the hit that got us really into the playoffs or whatever. Like, not everybody understands. No, that's the hit that saved baseball in Seattle. And so Willie is able to dive into that and talks a little bit about what that felt like as a fan's perspective. But in general, just talking with this guy as he was one of us at one point, a fan of the game, and not only a fan of the game, but a fan of the Seattle Mariners. And then for this guy to get drafted by his hometown team, play the first 7 seasons in the league as a Seattle Mariner, and then obviously come back and finish as a Mariner as well. I mean, if that ain't poetic, I don't know what is. And I talk about baseball in the interview with Willie. I talk about it being poetic in another way, which it's a fun story that Willie's able to talk about there, but I won't dive too much in it. I'm not going to dive into that. I'll let you guys hear that from himself. But baseball in general is a poetic beauty that brings so much awesomeness, and I absolutely love it. And that's some people I hear, they're like, oh, I hate sports and stuff like that, and they're just thinking white and black and not reading in between the lines. They're colorblind in a sense of like, oh, it just isn't fun. It's like, no, it's beautiful, and there's crazy things that can happen, and it's such a colorful sport, and it's just sports in general are colorful, and it's awesome.
Without getting too much in the weeds, one thing that we will address throughout the duration of this podcast, I'm sure, is, you know, if you're not a Mariner fan or a baseball fan or a sports fan, I mean, that goes into another story, but, you know, if you're listening to this, 95% chance, unless you just like hearing me, Evan, and Chris talk about nothing. If you're listening to this, you're more likely than not a baseball fan to an extent, and hopefully a Mariner fan as well. But a lot of the friends that at least I have, right? The argument is baseball is very boring. And from a surface level, I could not agree with you more. And this is a hot take too, because, here I am doing this podcast, but, it's a slow sport, but it's about, obviously when you grow up on something, it means something a little bit different. And you understand, like Chris says, the poetic justice that it sometimes brings, and, just the context and the storylines behind it. There's just a lot of that in this sport. So, and frankly, well, I guess that's all I have to say on that.
Well, I think with baseball, it's such a hard sport, and there's a lot of failure involved with it. So you see, outs, and there's not a lot. There's sometimes a lot of action. Sometimes, a pitcher could throw a gem, but if you're an average baseball fan or a diehard baseball fan, that's fun to watch, and so. But with basketball or football, you're always, you're scoring the ball, and so I think that
More
kind of
fast paced.
Yeah, it kind of gets you jacked up a little bit. But
I got a lot of friends. that would argue about that on football. That they say
100%. Football.
Well, we're not here to talk about football, but everyone has their opinion, and everyone's entitled to it.
Of course, everybody's entitled to that opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think with all that being said, it's a fun interview. It's amazing, and Willie, one hell of a guy. But I hope you guys enjoyed the listen. I thought it was a great interview, and I hope it's a great listen as well.
Mr. Bloomquist, you there?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, Willie. How's it going?
Oh, I'm making it work.
Clearly. Good to have you on the show, man. And thanks for making time for us.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate it. Worked into the schedule this morning. My kid's got a half day today. So I figured I'd get to the school parking lot early and sit here and camp out and do this for you guys and jump on.
What a good dad. Right on. You're killing the game.
Well, I don't know about that. Just trying to keep my head above water.
Yeah. Well, that's a good starting point for us. I mean, what's been keeping you busy these days? I know that outside of being a dad and a husband, you're working for a D-backs as a D-back specialist. I understand that you have something called Elite Outdoor Adventures. How's all that going?
It's been a good chapter of life. Once I got done playing, I got offered a job to go continue in baseball and work with Derek Hall and the Diamondbacks and be a special assistant to him. That's been great. I kind of get to choose my own hours, do whatever I want to do, be around the game as much or as little as I want to, and meet some cool people, community service stuff. However, with the pandemic stuff, that's been kind of put to a little bit of a halt, just based on they're trying to keep the numbers down around the stadium, and people around spring training. So until we kind of get back to some normalcy on that, I've kind of been in a holding pattern and staying away from the ballpark, kind of going through withdrawals a little bit. But when that type of stuff happens, another opportunity kind of opens up, and it's been giving me a chance to to continue to develop my outdoor brand and business that I'm doing, Elite Outdoor Adventures. So just putting together some really fun outdoor hunting, fishing type trips, and
Absolutely.
bringing a couple one or multiple ex-athletes or whoever on the trip to kind of keep it entertaining, make it a fun trip, and then pick a charity of choice that we give a pretty good sized chunk of change to at the end of it all. So been a lot of fun. It's keeping me busy, and amongst running the 4 kids around, I'm staying definitely staying plenty busy.
That's outstanding. Have you, the 3 of us being, Seattle born and raised, have you always been an outdoorsy guy, you being from the Pacific Northwest yourself?
Yes. I grew up, my father was a big outdoorsman. So I had always kind of watched and learned from him a little bit. And then, it's kind of always been in my blood. I've always loved to explore the outdoors and do things in the outdoor world, whether it's, razor clam digging down on the coast, or crabbing in the Puget Sound, or whatever it might be, or the salmon fishing down in the Columbia, all that stuff I did growing up as a kid. And now that I'm, somewhat of an adult myself, I can't get enough of it. I believe that you got to get out and live life and see what the world has to offer. And for me, that's, there's nothing better than getting out in nature and experiencing it and seeing what's out there. So for me, I love doing it.
That is the truth of life, my friend. Appreciate hearing that. And that typically goes hand in hand with baseball, from myself personally, and Chris and Evan here.
So Willie, I got a question for you. Kind of as the us being Mariners fans, and the majority of your career, we saw you as the utility player, playing in your career every single position besides pitcher and catcher. And that's got to be kind of, I know you were coming to the ballpark every day, not necessarily knowing where you're going to play. You knew you were going to play, but not knowing what position. And Lou Piniella told you a quote. It was be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And there's really no truer words than that that could be spoken, especially in your case with playing every position besides pitcher and catcher. And so what was that like, coming to the ballpark, knowing you were going to play, but not necessarily where it was? How did you stay comfortable with the uncomfortable?
Well, for me, it was, it was a challenge, right? So that's how I was able to break into the big leagues was, we had a guy named Brett Boone that was at second base hitting 35, 38 home runs a year. And, it's no secret, I've never been much of a power hitter. I'm like, man, I can't compete with that. So for me, it was, I had to create a niche, at least initially, to give those guys a day off when they needed it, and find a niche, base running and playing good defense, and, trying to give solid at bats when I could. When playing sparingly, that was obviously a very tough part, is trying to stay sharp, not only offensively without, seeing pitches on a regular basis, but also defensively, and not knowing where I was going to play that day. So for me, it was like, I could show up to the ballpark and not have taken a ground ball at third base in a week. And here I am, I'm playing third, and Jamie Moyer's pitching, and we're facing the Red Sox with Manny and Millar and all those big heavy hitting right-handers. I'm like, this is going to be fun. Let me go get the hockey gear on. But for me, it was a challenge, but it was something I enjoyed, coming to the yard. And for me, it was, once I kind of made that first play, or was able to do something and put it in the positive column, I really kind of embraced and grasped the enjoyment of being able to play a lot of positions, where, a lot of times mid-game, they would switch me from second base to center field or left field or whatever. And it's like, no big deal. You just go out there and be an athlete and make the play and hit the cutoff man and do your thing. But, it could weigh on your mind. I'm not going to say it was easy. It's very difficult, especially when you have to, I don't want to say master 7 positions, but be solid enough to where if you do get to go in there, or you are asked to be in that situation, you go in and you play solid. A lot of times that would be first base. Go pinch run for Olerud, and then you're going to play first. It's like, shit, I don't have a first baseman's glove, but I'll figure one out. And, you just grab it and you go with the flow and try to look like you know what you're doing. And next thing you know, they coin you as ability to play first base too. So it just kind of was a niche for me that I had to do. And that's what kept me around for a long time.
Did you have a favorite position? I mean, when you came to the yard and coach said, you're in at first, you're in at short, you're in at left, were you more ecstatic about one than the other?
Well, I always liked playing shortstop, but on the other hand, that took me the longest to get comfortable there, if that makes sense. So it would take me a while, 2 or 3 games, to get into a rhythm at shortstop defensively, where I could, find my full potential on range and all that stuff, and reading the ball off the bat. But there's a lot of times where when I would play infield a lot, I would just bounce out to center field, and it seemed so free, and you could run everywhere out there. You know, granted, you had a lot of ground to cover, but you could see everything evolving in front of you with where the pitch location was. And it's like, man, you have so much more time out here to read what's going on and just get a good jump on a ball and run. And as long as you had good angles, you could cover some ground. So, you know, in the infield, I really enjoyed shortstop. In the outfield, I enjoyed center field.
So I'm curious, you pitched in college, and having never pitched in the MLB, there had to have been a situation. I mean, I would imagine with the Mariners where there were games where you're getting blown out. And was there ever a situation, you got any story where you were close to convincing Lou or any of the other managers on your other teams close to putting you on the bump, to putting you into pitch?
Well, I never tried to convince them to let me go in and pitch. Let's put it that way. They were the other way around a couple times. And matter of fact, the game that sticks out, well, two of them stick out. One was, you know, when I was playing with the Mariners, I think we were playing Boston, and we ran through our bullpen, you know, pretty good. And we went extras. I think we were in the 14th or 15th inning, and it was either me or Jamie Burke was the only two options left we had on, you know, to pitch. And Jamie was our backup catcher. And they looked at both of us and said, which one of you guys want to pitch? Because we're out. And I'm like, I ain't pitching. Screw that. And Jamie was like, well, I could do it. And I'm like, man, I go ahead. I'll play center field. And so, but Jamie was in his second inning of work, and he's like, I got one more inning of work, and that's all I can do. So you're gonna have to come in after that. And we ended up giving up a run and ended up losing that game. But I was kind of relieved that I didn't have to, especially in front of our home crowd at home with, you know, I'm like, man, I don't want to ruin this game. We battled so hard to be, you know, 14 innings here. I don't want to be the guy that stinks this up at the end. So anyway, I dodged a bullet there. The other time I was with, actually with the Mariners again, when Lloyd McClendon was our skipper. And we were in Miami. And this, you know, they have the Clevelander out in left field, right? The Painted Lady strip club essentially is what
yeah.
And we were getting blown out again, and he said, hey, Bloomy, I need you to pitch. And I'm like, all right, well, the inning's going on. What do you want me to do? I can't get down the bullpen. He goes, we'll figure out a way to get down to the pen. So they drove me around, the golf cart to drive me around the concourse was used. So I had to walk amongst the people in the concession stand in the concourse on the slippery concrete with my spikes on.
With your spikes on, right.
All the way around. Everyone's gonna give me the double take, like, is that a real player, or is he just dressed up like a fan? Like, I mean, this is crazy. So I get all the way down to the bullpen, and the bullpen door's locked. You know, the Clevelander's going bump, 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 you know, and going crazy with the bass and the music. And I can't get into the bullpen, and everyone's in line standing there, you know, heckling me because I can't get into the bullpen because it's locked. And I'm pounding on the door like they're going to hear me there. And anyway, security guy, took him about 4 or 5 minutes for him to finally get a key to get me into our own bullpen. And I had to go in there through about 4 warm-up pitches, and thank God Fernando Rodney got the third out. I didn't have to go in and pitch then either. So anyway, those are my two as close as I've become to pitching. They were both stressful.
On that story, were you happy that you weren't in Safeco Field when you would have had to have walked through the stands? Because I'm sure the fans would have been trying to stop you, ask for autographs, but like, no way is Willie Bloomquist walking through the stands right now in the middle of the game.
That would have, I don't know what would have been worse. I had the visiting fans of Miami, like, you know, heckling me, or if I would have been at home. But I knew all the back channels at Safeco, or at the time it was Safeco, you know, where I could have actually gotten out to the bullpen, you know, incognito. But being in Miami, I didn't know how to get out there. And so it was the main concourse was the only way to get there.
That's outstanding. Willie, I mean, I want to bring it back a little bit, just as your time as a Mariner as a whole, right? I mean, from our understanding, you were a diehard Mariner fan growing up, and it must have been a dream to get drafted by you know, said team. You know, you get drafted by them in 2002, the year after a miraculous, you know, single season, you know, winning record, right? And you're kind of looking at working with this team with eyes wide open and probably salivating at the mouth, I would hope. But, you know, obviously you spent a lot of tough years on, you know, a losing team. just, I mean, as an MLB player, as a professional ball player, what is it like, and how do you get over, working? I'm sure it was a great group of guys, but there's got to be a sense of frustration around working, season after season. And again, trust me, on this podcast, we're preaching about all the years of pain and struggle and sadness that Mariner fans and players and whatnot have to go through. But I mean, what is that like? I mean, especially since you're doing a position here, a position there. I mean, how do you get motivated? And how do you keep going on as a team that is struggling, year after year?
Well, I think, like you said, I grew up in Seattle, so I experienced all those miserable moments when we were losing and as a fan. And then I was also, there when the triumphant, 95 season happened and we saved baseball in Seattle. So, I lived in the Northwest. I was a Seattle kid, went through all those ups and downs as a Mariner fan, of being downright, awful at times. And then, the rise of that year where they shocked the world. And then, being in the minor leagues when, kind of starting to knock on the door, when they had 116 wins in 01, getting called up at the end of 02. And we were, we had 93 or 94 wins in 02. So it's like we had a pretty damn good year.
Right.
Granted, I was
93 in 2003 too.
Well, I believe 2002, 2003 was 93 and 69 back-to-back consecutive seasons. So you had
so it's like, we had very good, very good seasons as far as wins were concerned. And, we were in the toughest division in baseball at the time with the A's, and the Angels were also, very good. And so, we came up a little short in 02, and I was just getting my feet wet. So I was just excited and happy to be there. Mm-hmm. And then, 03 was my first full season. And again, we started off, if I remember right, the first half, we were on fire. We were, 9 or 10 games up at the break or close to the break. And then we got old really quick, after that, and we started kind of fading down the stretch, but we still had a pretty good year. Wins, record wise. Yeah. I think that was the year Oakland had 103 wins and Anaheim had 100, I think, or vice versa. But anyhow, so we had a good year, and then we had the painful kind of rebuild, where we let a lot of guys go. A lot of the veteran guys kind of started leaving and kind of were at the end of their career, and fell off a little bit. And we had a couple of really tough years where we took it on the chin. And then I think, we had a pretty decent year. I want to say in 06 or 07, where we made a pretty good run at the wild card. And that was, I think, one of those years was the year Grover left right about the All-Star, or just after the All-Star break, and we were starting to roll. And I think that stung a little bit from a team morale standpoint, and we kind of fell off a little bit. But it was. To answer your question, there were times, it was tough getting to the ballpark, knowing that we were lousy and we were kind of in a rebuild, and then trying all these new faces coming up from AAA that were supposed to be the next coming of God, and watch them fall on their face. And it's just like, well, we need a new plan here. This isn't working. But it's on the same token as a player, especially myself, knowing the frustration of the fans in the city of Seattle, and knowing what they deserve and knowing what the city is capable of producing, it was frustrating at times. But you still, as a professional, you got to go out and try to give your best effort, and come to the ballpark, and they're paying tickets to watch you play. So you got to accept that as an opportunity to get out there and showcase yourself and play the best you can for the fans and for your organization. You sign on the dotted line, you sign a contract. That's your job, to go out and give it what you got. And, at the end of the day, sometimes I was downright terrible, but it wasn't due to a lack of effort or preparation. And every time I took the field, it was to give my best effort for the organization, for the fans, and for myself. Some days it was good, some days not so good, but the effort and then the attitude and determination to do the best I could for that city was always there. So, and to me, if you don't take that mindset and approach, then, you're selling somebody short, whether it be yourself, the organization, or the fans. not necessarily in that order, but you're doing a disservice to the game of baseball if you don't go out and give it everything you got when you're out there.
100%. I love it. I want to follow up on that, the 95 season. And obviously the Mariners fans were all extremely familiar with Edgar's double. I feel like in our age range, we're all about 27. Most of the guys our age, they weren't really aware of what was going on behind the scenes in terms of the political things going on in Seattle at the time of 95. And so being a fan, not knowing whether or not the team was going to stay in Seattle, and you were the diehard Mariners fan, and seeing the Angels towards the latter half of the season start falling apart and the Mariners started coming alive, and all of a sudden we get to the wild card and then bring it to the ALDS. And as you said, Edgar's hit quite literally saved baseball in Seattle. And so that time period as a fan, what was that like, not knowing if Seattle was going to stay, and then figuring out like with the hit that Edgar did, it saved Seattle. Walk us through that.
Well, I think, people from your, no disrespect to your generation, but they didn't really quite grasp how important that was. And I know it gets old when you go to the ballpark and, we got to watch Edgar's double again. We got to do, it's like, dude, I could watch it a million times over, because for me, I knew how powerful and what that meant, to our city and to the baseball organization. And baseball was dead. It was gone. It was out of Seattle. They had voted it out. They were destroying the Kingdom, and everyone was sick and tired of the Mariners because they sucked. And it was like, get them out of here. And no one cared. And, they fell behind at the All-Star break. They were kind of treading water. And then, all of a sudden they caught fire. And, one night it was, Jay Buhner. Next night it was Junior. The next night it was Blowers. Next night it was Alex Diaz winning the game with the homer. It's like, what's going on? Something's brewing in Seattle. And they started kind of catching Anaheim, or I think it was Los Angeles Angels at that time. And they started reeling them in. And like, dude, everybody was zoomed into the Mariners game every day. Didn't matter where you were. If you were going up to I was going to my grandma's house. We had the radio blared, and the minute we got there, we ran inside and turned the TV on. And it's just like,
wow, everybody
was glued to the Mariners. Like, they can do this. And then, of course, the one game playoff that Randy shoved against Langston, and Soho hits the Little League grand slam down the right field line. And, it's like, dude, the city was going crazy. And then, here come the big bad Yankees coming to town, and we took it to them after losing 2 in New York. And it's like, man, baseball was gone out of Seattle. So with that double, it reinvigorated the city, or with that stretch, I should say, of a month and a half of baseball. They brought it back, and like, you know what? People were like, yeah, we need baseball in this city. Let's pass the levy. Let's pass whatever we have to do, build a new stadium. And now we have beautiful, again, I don't even know, T-Mobile Park.
T-Mobile,
yeah.
I was going to say Safeco, but I mean, we have a beautiful stadium in downtown Seattle because of that. And people should really never forget that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Willie, I want to ask about one of your teammates, Ichiro. Obviously, I saw a video earlier this week of him, playing a simulated game. The guy's incredible. Has done amazing things. Obviously, you spent 7 years with him as a teammate. We saw him on the field from a fan's perspective, but we didn't get that chance to see him from behind the scenes. What was it like being his teammate? What was his work ethic like in that department?
Well, Ichiro was, I will say this about him. No one could ever question his preparation before every game. He was almost robotical with his preparation and his timing on everything, when he had to do something, what he ate every day. He was very, very methodical and basically in his routine, what he did every single day, which is ultimately why he was a pretty dang good player. Obviously his talent and his skills were phenomenal, but he never took a day off mentally. He had his masseuse. He had his little rice balls that he would eat every day.
Mm-hmm.
And the things he did every day were to a T. Boom, boom, boom. Very regimented every single day. So, and he gave it everything he had when he played. So there might be, some that critique or criticize his style of game, as far as, hitting and running and when he stole bases and stuff like that, on not being necessarily the American way of baseball. And there were times I got frustrated, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, man, he needs to run in this count and run in this pitch, and wouldn't. But at the end of the day, I can say nothing but phenomenal things about him as an athlete and what he brought to the field every day.
And Willie, so you, as you said earlier, you weren't a power hitter. You had 18 total home runs in your career, but baseball, one of the reasons I love it is how poetic it is. And it can do some crazy things, and your home runs always seem to mean something. And your first one in particular, the grand slam, that was your first hit in the MLB. It was a grand slam, and that was the first game your pops had been back watching you play after the accident he was in. So kind of like D. Gordon's situation, not as bad because Jose Fernandez had passed away, but D. Gordon ripped a home run over his number, and he's rounding the bases. He's crying as he's rounding the bases. And so for you, with knowing your dad is back and he's healthy and he's in the stadium watching you, and you hit that grand slam, it's your first hit, rounding the bases. I mean, what's going through your mind?
And Dave Niehaus is commentating it too, which is any kid's dream.
Your dream,
well,
as you were, I'm sure, as a kid growing up, pretending you were in the stadium, and you're imagining Dave saying, "Oh, Willie with the grand slam, and break out the rye bread, Grandma." I mean, walk us through that.
Well, I think as a kid, first and foremost, yeah. I mean, we had a tennis court in our backyard, and I would always go out there with my bat and ball and hit our tennis balls over the fence and lose them. And in my mind, I'm rounding the bases exactly what you said, with old Dave Niehaus's voice on busting out the rye bread and mustard, and like, dude, that was the voice of Seattle. I mean, and Mariners baseball. He was awesome, and it gives me chills and goosebumps when I think about it. And I get to get called up at the end of 2002 and had a successful 2002. And my father unfortunately got in a terrible car accident and had some massive brain damage as a result. And that was his first game basically back to watch. And he still, my dad was never the same when it came to being coherent with things around him. So he didn't really realize what was going on when he was there, but I knew my father was there, in the stands for that game. And, I'll never forget the day we were facing Rob Bell from Tampa, and bottom of the first, and I was hitting ninth. We already had a 2-run lead, and we had the bases loaded. And Lou Piniella went and got Rob Bell out of the bullpen to face me because their starting pitcher was doing terrible. And Rob had chirped off in the media prior to that about how he was bummed that he got to miss his start spot in the rotation, was going to get to miss Seattle. And he was pissed about that because he wanted to, expletive, throw it against us basically.
Wow.
And I got ahead on a 3-1 count, and I'm like, I'm putting a swing on this one. I don't care where it's at. And I got lucky, caught it out front, and it was a very, very special moment for me.
Yeah.
One that I kind of, if I'm being truthful, probably teared up a little bit around second base, just knowing, for me personally, how special it was, knowing that my father was there, was able to, whether or not he remembered it, which I'm sure he didn't, but he was there watching it at the time, which was pretty cool. So, neat experience for me.
Yeah. Outstanding. Willie, we're coming up on time here, and you've been very gracious with us with your time. Well, one last question, at least I had, was how did the name Willie stick? And a follow-up question to that, Chris here was telling me before this call, some situation where you were referred to as Bill. So, I mean, what were you going by in the clubhouse? And obviously when we did our homework on you, it wasn't like we could type in William Bloomquist, even though that's your full name, but how did that name stick?
Well, I'm probably have the most nicknames of anybody on the, in baseball.
Yeah.
I would think, because I mean, there's some good, there's some bad, there's some blog writers like to have fun with that, I'm sure, from time to time. But I'm a William. My father was a William. He went by Bill. They just called me Willie ever since I was a kid, and it just, that was my name. That's what I knew it as. And so as far as what I'm called, that depends on which organization I played for. And in Seattle, I was known by Bloomy, or
Yep.
Mike Cameron used to call me Boom Boom Bloomquist, and so Boom Boom stuck, and all these different nicknames wherever I went. And then so JJ Puts at the time goes, "How come you don't go by Bill?" And I said, "Well, because that's my dad's name, and I don't want to go by Bill." And he goes, "Let's get everyone to start calling you Bill." And
No kidding.
so he tried to get everybody in Seattle to start calling me Bill, and everyone looked at JJ like, "Nah, it's Bloomy, dude. Beat it.
No.
You know, we're not calling him Bill." And so that didn't work out as planned on his part. Well, then fast forward 3 years later, when we both became a free agent, we went to the both signed with the Diamondbacks within a day of each other.
This is you and JJ?
Me and JJ, and JJ signed first, and then I signed shortly after him with the D-backs. And I go into the clubhouse and I'm getting physical done and all that stuff. And the head trainer's there, Ken Crenshaw, and comes in and he goes, "So what do we call you? We call you Bloomy or what?" And JJ's there and he goes, "No, he goes by Bill."
Oh gosh.
And Ken, and I'm like, "No, it's Bloomy or what?" And they go, and it just stuck. Everybody, now I'm known around the D-backs is just Bill. And it kind of has stuck around there, at least, to where, you know, the secretaries, the front office, all the training staff, everybody still calls me Bill when I'm around there. So it's stuck. I've even went into the bank one time and they said, "Oh, William, do you prefer Will or Willie?" And I'm like, "Bill's fine."
Oh, no.
So it's kind of been funny, but like I said, depends what organization. The Royals all call me Bloomy, the Mariners call me Bloomy, but the D-backs all call me Bill. So yeah, kind of funny, but it's a term of endearment at this point.
I love
Willie,
it.
Go ahead.
I got one more question, Willie. We had Dave on last week, Dave Sims, and I had brought up a question about Jay Buhner's secret talent of blurping. And I know Jay has helped out with the Elite Outdoors Adventures. You guys are pretty close. I mean, has he told you about that blurping talent?
Oh, I've seen it firsthand.
Okay, what's that? Because the game I brought up to Dave was when Kevin Mitchell was in right field, left field. Jay's in right and Griffey's in center, and he starts blurping. And Kevin looks over, he starts getting sick, and all of a sudden Griffey sees the two of them. He's getting sick, and they're all throwing up at once. I mean, what is that about? That's awesome.
Oh, Jay's a beauty, man. I mean, Jay was one of my idols growing up, and then getting an opportunity to play with him. And my first spring training, I come into the showers there after the game, and I didn't know it was Jay's shower head. And Jay put his own shower head up there that had better water pressure than everybody else's. Not, you know, as a rookie, I didn't know. I just went, I'm like, "Oh, I'll take this shower. This looks good." Well, Jay comes around the corner, he sees me in his shower head, and he'd go ahead, and that's where I got the first experience of the blurping.
Oh no! Oh no!
Right on my foot.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
"Oh man, I guess I'm in the wrong shower here."
No way.
So, anyway, but then yeah, over the years we've seen it on occasion. You'll bust it out, and man, what an absolute personality! Biggest personality you could hope for in a clubhouse. Keeps everybody loose. Yeah, Jay is one of my favorite people of all time.
I love it. I love it. And with the Mariners doing what we're doing today, and with the high hopes that we have, the young guys that we got, and you, I'm assuming, are you still a big Mariners fan and dying for the day that we make the playoffs?
Well, I know it's coming. You know, I know it's coming soon.
Statistically speaking, you know,
we had a pretty good run. I think in 14 we fell one game short. You know, took it down to the last day where we had an opportunity to hopefully have a playoff against Oakland, but came up a little short. I think that's probably as close as the Mariners have come in a while. But, you know, they have some very good young talent. You know, I don't know, obviously don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if it's going to be this year or when it's going to be, where they're all going to it does take some time as young guys, you know, just to caution fans. Obviously, I know they've been patient long enough, but you know, young guys, when they come up and they're superstars, you know, on paper, but it does take them, you know, a year or two to figure things out and gel together. So, you know, I'm hopeful, just simply for the people of Seattle, that city's been through hell in the past year, just from a standpoint of a number of different things, you know, political and sports figure wise. It's taken a black eye. So for that city and the people up there, I really hope sooner than later that team comes together and puts together a good run, because the fans up there deserve it. And I'd love to see it, you know, being that I'm in the National League working for the Diamondbacks. I'd love to see, I'm always pulling for the Mariners in the American League to to do their thing and hopefully have success.
I love it. And then Willie, I don't know if you can see, but I got your jersey on, the Willie Bloomquist jersey. You've been all three of us. I mean, one of our favorite guys in baseball growing up. I mean, I was kind of similar, never good at one position. The coaches would put me everywhere. You were an idol to us, and I mean, just having you on the show, we can't say thank you enough. It is an absolute honor to speak to you. And we started this podcast about a month ago, and with having Dave Sims and now you on as the first two guests, we're starstruck. This is two of the coolest things I've done in my entire life, and we just want to say thank you so much, man, for taking the time. We appreciate the hell out of you, and go M's, man.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you, flattering me with the fan support. People in Seattle have, for the most part, been phenomenal to me over the years. I love the fans up there. They're great. Like I said, most of the people up there are phenomenal. At least from personal experience, you get a few that are a little annoying at times.
Trust me, we know.
But very, very appreciative. You guys, accepted me as a player and as a fan. That's awesome. If you ever need anything, just holler. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate your loyalty to the organization. That's one thing. Mariner fans are pretty loyal to their organization. They'll always support them. So I appreciate you guys for doing that.
Willie, take care of yourself. Best of luck to you. We'll be in touch.
All right, come on a fishing trip one day.
We will. I was looking at that. Did you guys end up being able to go to Cabo?
We did not go to Cabo this year. We had to push it back just due to the COVID stuff. Thought it was probably the smart way to go for next year. But if you guys ever get the urge to want to go up to Alaska, that's a fun one.
Absolutely. Hey, we'll keep you up on that, because that's something. I did work in Alaska, and it's beautiful up there. I would love to go fishing up there. I'm gonna stay updated on your guys' website.
Awesome. Love to have you.
All right, take care, Willie.
All right, thanks, Willie.
Bye.
We'll see you.
What an interview. What an interview. Willie Bloomquist, the man. Max, I'm going to let you take this one and kind of dissect here.
Well, I mean, it's cool because we were fortunate enough to have Dave Sims on our first episode, and that's an entirely different perspective. We've got a long way ahead of us, but we've already locked down our firsthand player experience, right? I mean, it's interesting and fascinating to hear. For someone that played in the bigs for over 10 years is one thing, right? But also someone that's played in pretty much every position imaginable, to get that perspective, that's a lot of fun. And you got what you wanted, Chris. The blurping has been explained, and
it's been confirmed.
Poor Willie Bloomquist. Poor Willie, he experienced it firsthand. Willie, good for you. Way to take it. Be tough. I don't know. I don't really know. I guess we didn't really ask more about how he felt about that, but it is what it is.
I mean, there's not. I mean, at least it happened in the shower, right? At least he got thrown. He got thrown up on in the shower. Easy fix for him, right? I mean, there could be a lot of other worse places that you get thrown up on. I don't think. You know what? If I'm going to get thrown up on, I'm going to want it to be in the shower, without a doubt. If I'm ever going to get thrown up on, I'm going to want it to be in the shower. I mean, where else are you going to want to get thrown up on?
Okay, Chris, hold on. We're getting off topic here, because who's going to be throwing up on you in the shower? Silence. Absolutely. Dude, you dug yourself a hole there, pal. I don't know if you can get back out of that one.
I'm done. Yikes. Yeah. I don't know.
It's okay. No. No one wants to be thrown up on, but you make a valid point.
If I'm going to get thrown up on.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I thought Willie, I just like, he was just such a genuine guy. After the interview, he was like, yeah, come on a fishing trip if you guys want to, send the jersey. And for a guy, to take his time like that to talk to us is very honorable, and we appreciate that. But I loved hearing all those stories he was talking about in the MLB. When he got locked out of the bullpen in Miami, almost had to pitch with the game on the line. It was you don't really get to hear that stuff sometimes, and so to
No.
really dissect that, and we can give you that here on this podcast, I think it's pretty cool. So
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get into something that Chris calls questions from the dugout, really quickly want to cover, we're in our second week of spring training. I guess, we can cover some of the highlights from the week and the key takeaways, wins and losses, take spring training results with a grain of salt, obviously, because it's just the team kind of experimenting and kind of testing out players, giving them some field time. But
Spring training is doing what spring training does.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the highlights that we take away from this week?
So in our first episode, we talked about the Austin Nola trade to San Diego, getting Ty France, Taylor Trammell, and I believe there was a third name in there that I forgot to mention, Andres Munoz. He's going to be closing, but he's just not as relevant at this specific time right now as Ty France and Taylor Trammell. But those two have been going off, and Jared Kelenic obviously got sidelined with the shoulder injury. But Taylor's been Trammell been coming in and kind of taking his place in the outfield for the time being, and he's been doing a very good job at it, or at least exceeding expectations. And so as fans and listeners, I highly recommend keeping an eye out on that name, Taylor Trammell, and then definitely Ty France. But those two guys that we got from San Diego, and then when time comes, Andres Munoz, I mean, this guy's got a heater of an arm attached to that shoulder of his. And so keep an eye out for those three, but the Ty France and Taylor Trammell are going to be the biggest impacts coming up, and that's going to be opening. I mean, I'm assuming that Taylor will be starting in left field opening day, and Ty France will be somewhere opening day, whether it be in the field or on DH, but he will be playing. And so those two guys I am thrilled to see. And I mean, our boys it's cool to see Mitch Haniger back as well, just back in action. That's a name that really gets forgotten about, and it shouldn't, but it just does because we've got so many other good guys that we're keeping our eyes on it. So we got it's exciting, and we got a lot of talent. I hope that comes full to fruition here, but being the optimist that I am, and I'm going to continue to be, I'm never not going to be optimistic about my boys in the Seattle Mariners, even if it drives me nuts. But I'm very excited to see what they got brewing.
Yeah, I think it's, you just see the future in our eyes, and there's moments where sometimes they'll get blown out. We saw that a few times this week, but then they'll come together.
What was one of the scores that we lost to Texas 17-5?
Yeah, but then we also I saw when we played the Dodgers earlier this week, Jake Fraley, when he hit that bomb, you saw the potential there, and just that mammoth home run and all that.
That was a tank, dude. The crack of the bat. Oh my God, I loved it.
So yeah, and then Marco had a great outing yesterday.
Yep, I was just about to
talk.
Oh
my gosh, Marco was looking great
so what? Yeah, he was. So we got 4 innings pitched, gave up a couple hits, but no walks, no runs.
Hold on, I want to say the most impressive thing that I saw from Marco is in his last inning of work, and he gave up a leadoff triple, and then
no
he gave up a leadoff triple, and he ended up escaping out of the jam without allowing the run. And so he got a pop up into shallow right, and then he got like a pop up to first base, and then I forget what happened with the third out. But I mean, just that's what you want to see. If you're going to call a guy your ace and they give up a leadoff triple, and then that guy doesn't score.
Yep.
I mean, again, I know this is only spring training, yada yada yada, but
it's the reps. It's the reps that you like to see.
It's the practice of situational baseball. That's what you want to see. That situational baseball. And so Marco now knows. Oh, I've gotten a guy in on third base, but I've gotten out with no outs, but I've gotten out of that jam. And so
I've got a defense behind me that knows what the hell they're doing.
Exactly.
Right.
But yes, as Max did say, everybody, there's a new segment type deal coming from Monday Mojo called Questions from the Dugout. We are gonna we want to engage with our followers and our listeners, and every week we're gonna pull a couple questions that you guys give us, and we will answer them on the show and on the air, and the best ones will get will be the ones that we talk about. And so
where can they ask us these questions?
We're going to get these DMs to our Instagram. And so just send them to our Instagram at Monday_Mojo. And we will pick the best questions, the ones that we like the most, that are most relevant, and we will be answering them on air and to engage with you, the listeners, as much as we can, because we appreciate the hell out of every single one of you.
Absolutely. And it goes without saying, friends out there, a lot of the listeners that we have are friends or friends and friends. Tell your friends of friends of friends. You know, in the Pacific Northwest area, we want to see how
everywhere,
yeah,
all over the world, all over the country.
We want to
All
see
over the
how far we can take this thing, how close to the moon we can get.
I want that.
I was just thinking,
I want to board
like,
that rocket ship.
I was just thinking,
Take
like,
me to the moon.
I want the goal to be where, like, Kyle Lewis and they're in the dugout and they're like, "What do we listen to, guys? Let's just put on Monday Mojo," you know, like.
Dream big, baby. Dream big.
Goals. So we'll get
guys
there
and gals
though.
out there, thanks for tuning in for another week 2 of Monday Mojo. We'll be back week 3 next Monday, but have a good week, stay safe, and as always, go Mariners.
Go Mariners.
Go Mariners.